Here's something you probably don't know. As many as 1 in 5 veterans suffers from PTSD. Post-traumatic stress disorder is a leading cause of suicide among vets. But David Martin has word of a surprising treatment that could lead them out of the dark.
I stabbed myself in the neck and the wrist with a knife. And I just wanted the pain to stop.
A series of Pulitzer Prize-winning photographs captured the agony of former Marine Scott Ostrom, his life overwhelmed by PTSD after 2 tours in Iraq. 12 years of nightmares, panic attacks, and failed relationships. A danger not only to himself, but to others.
Deep down, I was angry. So really, I think I was just looking for a fight.
What were you angry about?
I was angry with myself. I felt guilty for some of the things that I failed to do when I was overseas.
Failed to do, how?
I watched my friend burn alive inside of a Humvee, and the fire was too hot, and I couldn't get to him. So I felt like I needed to be punished for that.
You're being haunted by a memory of something that happened to you.
Rachel Yehuda of Mount Sinai Hospital in New York has spent 30 years working with veterans and other victims of PTSD.
The standard treatment for PTSD has been psychotherapy, and there are 2 medications that are FDA-approved for the treatment of PTSD, both of which are anti-depressants.
How effective is the treatment?
These treatments tend not to really solve the problem for most people, but they are better than nothing.
Desperate for relief, Scott Ostrom answered a Facebook ad seeking volunteers for an FDA-approved trial using a psychedelic drug called MDMA, better known by its street name, ecstasy.
It really did change my life. Come on, buddy. In a short period of time, in 6 months.
When I first heard about this, I thought to myself, how could this possibly be a good idea? Psychedelics were illegal and designated by our government as being of potential harm and no medical benefit.
Then at the annual Burning Man Festival in Nevada, she met Rick Doblin.
I knew that MDMA was great for PTSD in 1984.
Doblin heads a psychedelic research organization called MAPS, and for decades has been fighting laws which made psychedelics illegal.
When we think now about how many people over the last 50 years could have been saved from suicide or depression if the research hadn't been shut down, it's a tragedy.
It was not until 2016 that the Food and Drug Administration authorized Phase 3 trials for MDMA, the same kind of Phase 3 trials COVID vaccines went through to prove they are safe and effective.
The results from the latest Phase 3 trial of MDMA were just astounding.
So these studies, have they produced specific results?
2/3 of the people that were treated with a course of MDMA no longer have PTSD.
Would you call this a breakthrough?
I would absolutely call this a breakthrough.
What does the FDA think?
They've designated MDMA-assisted psychotherapy as a breakthrough approach.
What does that mean in terms of what you can do now?
Well, it doesn't mean you can start taking MDMA on your own. It means that the data are so good that let's get this on a fast track for approval.
But life on that fast track costs money.
The biggest obstacle really for us was raising the funds to do the research because the pharmaceutical companies were not interested, the major foundations were not interested, it was all too controversial.
Thank you.
Enter Bob Parsons, a maverick billionaire who first took psychedelics 3 years ago.
How much of a difference did psychedelics make in your life?
The quality of my life has increased immeasurably.
Never a good student, Parsons joined the Marines at 17 and was sent to Vietnam. A month later, he was wounded.
This is a picture of me in the field hospital.
It was the last he saw of combat, but the war continued to haunt him.
I was a completely different guy that came home than the guy that left. The guy that came home, he had a short temper, never felt like he belonged no matter where he was or who he was with.
Was it getting better? Was it getting worse?
I believe it was getting worse. Somebody would ask me if I served in Vietnam, I'd start crying.
Parsons made his fortune from GoDaddy,
GoDaddy.com.
an internet company which he turned into must-see TV with risque Super Bowl ads.
Now you're a billionaire. What are you going to do with all that money?
I'm going to do what I can to get psychedelics approved for therapeutic use.
Parsons has donated more than $7 million to psychedelic research. Under the influence of MDMA, Scott Ostrom was able to actually visualize his inner demons.
This spinning black ball started to open itself up to me in different layers, like an onion. And then each layer revealed like a new memory. And it was almost like the layers were just opening and opening and opening.
At the center, he found a part of him he calls the bully.
It was a terribly frightening creature.
The bully is basically the person you had to become in order to survive 2 tours in Iraq.
That's right. That's who the Marine Corps trains you to be, a fighter and a killer. And that's who I had to become to survive those deployments.
With the aid of 2 psychotherapists, he was able to come to terms with it.
After those 3 MDMA sessions, I haven't had a nightmare about the war since.
Do you suffer panic attacks anymore?
No,
Do you have any thoughts of suicide?
no.
But like a drunk getting sober, he can't undo all the damage done, all the years lost.
You know, I spent over a decade pushing people away and making my life harder on myself and not loving myself. So as far as dealing with the combat part of my PTSD, we were successful in that, but I still think I can be a better person. I still think there's room to grow.
MDMA may be a breakthrough, but it's still a trial drug not likely to be available to the estimated 1 million veterans suffering from PTSD until 2024.
What the breakthrough means to me is that we have a meaningful way to spend our time now so that we can bring a new paradigm of care to the people that need it most. It just means that there's real hope out there that may really end up being a game changer for people that have suffered for way too long.